Well, it's been a nail biter, but it seems like the search for MH370 is back on track. Hi, everybody. It's aviation journalist Jeff Wise back with you. In the last episode, we talked about how we couldn't tell what Ocean Infinity was planning because they weren't saying anything publicly, and the ship tasked with searching the seabed seemed to be heading off to South Africa. Well, fortunately, that didn't happen. Instead, Armada 7806 sailed to a stretch of ocean near the 7th Arc, arrived there on Tuesday, March 11th, and it deployed its 3 AUVs, which it continues to do today, Saturday, March 15th. Okay, so what comes next? With still no information coming out of Ocean Infinity or the Malaysian government, all that we can do is read the tea leaves and infer what that strategy is from the surface movement of the ship. I can't lie, basically what we're talking about is informed guesswork, but at least the picture is a lot clearer than it was a week ago. And basically the news is quite good. I'll explain why that is right now. Okay, you'll remember that the first part of the seabed search, which ran from February 23rd to March 1st, was conducted up here, very close to the 7th Arc, covering an area of the seabed that had already been scanned several years before. The theory was that based on the analysis of the Inmarsat data and aircraft performance, this was where the plane was most likely to be. And if it wasn't found there, the most likely explanation was that, against all odds, it must have fallen into one of the very few places where the search data was incomplete. Well, that appears not to have been the case, because if they'd found the wreckage, they wouldn't have had to keep searching, so they wouldn't have come back into the ocean, which they are doing. So now they've zipped themselves over to a different part of the ocean. They're about 100 nautical miles from where they were during phase one. Obviously, the idea behind the search here is very different. Whatever the analysis is, obviously, it has to be a different idea. So let's talk about why that is and what Ocean Infinity probably thinks it's doing. One thing you'll notice is that the area that they're currently searching is outside both the original search area, which was carried out under the auspices of the Australian government between 2014 and 2017, and then the later search by Ocean Infinity in 2018. This is virgin territory. This is virgin terrain. It tells us that Ocean Infinity has basically given up the idea of searching for data gaps, at least for now. They're looking beyond the 7th Arc. In fact, the current position of the search vessel is about 55 nautical miles past the 7th Arc. So this is beyond where the previous search efforts thought was worth searching, because the odds that the planes could have gotten that far were so low. Okay, why was it considered very low? The scientists who studied the Inmarsat data came to the conclusion that the reason that the plane sent the 7th ping, that ping that defined the 7th Arc, was that it had already run out of fuel. And a backup power system had come online that restored power to the satellite data unit, which then sent that final set of signals. What that means is that the plane had already been without engine power for several minutes, and so had already lost energy and altitude, and hence the ability to glide any considerable distance. Now, on top of that, there's something which is even more determinative, which is that there are characteristics of the signal that it was in a steep and accelerating dive that would have put the plane into the ocean very, very quickly. Back in episode 4 of season 2, we recreated what that would have looked like in a commercial 777 simulator. I'll play that bit again for you so you can see just how fast it goes.
All right, so now for part 2 of our scenario, Claudio's now going to control the aircraft, rolling the wings level and pitching the nose down to get us 5,000 feet per minute rate of descent. So I'll keep the camera right on that. And you can see it's going to very quickly blow through 5. So there, it doesn't take much at all to get the airplane down to 5,000 feet per minute. He's pretty close, a little high, but that's all right. And now let's just see what it takes to get it to 16,000 feet per minute. Very, very gradually, try to space it out down to 16,000 feet per minute.
16,000?
With just not immediately, but over about 10 seconds if you can do it. And I think it's going to stop at 9,000. And look at that. There's the maximum indication on the vertical speed. It's 9,998 feet per minute.
Now look at the speed going crazy.
Right, and now we have an overspeed warning happening. So that one, yeah, that's a tough one to get a specific. The radar data is needed to know what these high rates of descent are in the cases of airplanes that crash at very high rates of speed. All right, and now, Claudio, if you want to go completely nose down, let's slam it down. We'll see how long it takes to hit starting now. And I'm going to reset the clock on that. And we're just going to do a dive now to the ocean. And we're there. So I'm going to add about 5 seconds to that. And you can see clearly out the window, there's nothing but water beneath us now. Back inside. And that rate of descent, we have no clue what our rate of descent is. Let's see if the ground proximity warning system, the radar altimeter, kicks in here near the end of our voyage, which should be near zero or sea level. And there's the radar altimeter kicking in. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. It's over, and that's it. And our simulator is set up to just bounce when it hits something and keep flying.
A plane that is traveling almost straight down for about a minute is not going to get very far at all from the 7th arc. I mean, really, you'd have thought that the wreckage, would have been spotted almost immediately once they started searching, because they started searching right on the 7th arc and have always been kind of working outward. They should have found it like within the very first season in late 2014. But it wasn't found even within 35 nautical miles of the 7th arc. So the question is, how can that be? How can it be out in that new terrain beyond this pretty already huge distance? Well, okay, so either the scientists misinterpreted the Inmarsat data and it wasn't really in a steep dive, or the alternative is that after pushing the plane into this dive, the pilot had a change of heart. And, maybe he decided that he didn't want to die that particular way after all. And he decided to pull out of the dive and try to glide as far as he could using whatever, speed and altitude he had left. So the question becomes, how far could he have gotten if he had changed his mind after, 20 or 30 seconds of this steep dive? Okay. It's impossible to say exactly. It depends on so many variables, but the absolute maximum that's conceivable would be on the order of 100 nautical miles, maybe 140 nautical miles at the absolute outer bounds. Assuming he's lost a significant amount of altitude during that steep dive, maybe, 70 is a more plausible upper bound. But the closer you get to the 7th arc, the higher the likelihood is going to be that the plane went there. And conversely, if you work your way outwards, the probability gets less and less and less. And so that's why the first search was right on the arc, and the second search was outward from that. And the third search appears to be searching outwards even from that. So we're in the dregs right now. Probabilistically, we are in the bottom. We're scraping the bottom of the barrel. Okay, so that's why they're searching far away from the arc. But why are they searching this particular spot laterally along the arc? What's the analytical basis for that? You'll remember that the first phase of the search was close to an area that Victor Ianello and his colleagues had identified based on their analysis of Inmarsat data, aircraft performance, ocean drift modeling. But that's not the only endpoint along the arc that you can plausibly make a case for. Every different combination of aircraft speed and turns and changes in speed, all of those different combinations put the plane in a different place at that moment it sets the final transmission. And some people have said, well, maybe the pilot programmed this particular waypoint in the autopilot, or they were on a certain, magnetic heading. You can try all kinds of ideas, and each one will put you in a different spot. One of the more prominent suggestions has come from two French pilots, Jean-Luc Marchand and Patrick Blely, who made a number of assumptions, and they put the plane here in between the current search zone and Victor's hotspot. By the way, they also have a really nice website that also shows the latest ship tracking data on Armada 7806. So kudos to them for that. I'll put the link to their page in the show notes. So here's what I think Ocean Infinity is guessing. I just looking at the tea leaves, I think what they're doing is They're going to scan another strip of seabed between 35 nautical miles and maybe up to 70 miles away from the seventh arc, because they can't really be so sure about where on the seventh arc the plane crossed, but they're more confident about how far it likely glided. So they're going to wind up with a strip that looks something like this. For reference, this is about 37,000 square kilometers. So I'm going to go a bit even more out on a limb. And I'm going to guess that they're going to blow right past that 15,000 square kilometer mark. I think they're just going to keep going. I think they're going to keep searching until they've searched pretty much all the remaining plausible existing places the plane could be. Maybe this is just me being optimistic, but this is what happened the last time Ocean Infinity searched. They just completely blew past what they said they were going to search. And really, if you're going to go out there, you might as well really go for it, So I think there's a good chance that they'll do a nice long strip here along the outer edge of the prior search zones. And if they don't find it, maybe they'll do another strip, inward. Maybe they'll search even further outward. Maybe they'll go past 70 nautical miles. Really, given that they're using a whole new generation of technology, I don't think it would even take that long. They might have to go back to port, once or twice to refuel and reprovision, but, they could easily exhaust all possible seabed search areas by summer. I don't think they'd even break a sweat based on their last search, which was using, again, a lower grade of technology. So all of that is pure speculation. I say it with zero confidence. We really have no idea what Ocean Infinity is trying to achieve. We don't know whether they think Malaysia is ever really going to sign that contract. There are just so many things we can only guess about. Okay, that's my 2 cents. What do you think? What's your gut telling you? Let me know in the comments here, or come join the discussion over on the show page chat. I'll put a link here. The advantage of discussing over there is that we can post the latest images showing where the ship is and what the seabed topography looks like. It's a little bit more informative. Of course, the other nice thing about the show page is that you can subscribe to a free newsletter that goes out with every episode. And if you'd like to support the show, you can take a paid membership. Always very much appreciated. I'd like to thank Kevin Rupp for sharing his ship tracking data with the rest of the world. And also, I'd like to thank the friend of the podcast, David Byers, who's been liaising with Kevin and posting questions and answers on the show page chat. So David, thank you very much for all that help. Just to touch again on something I say a lot, science is a social undertaking. It's a communal, cooperative undertaking. It's a conversation, really. It's not a one-way flow of information. So if you'd like to pitch in, come join us there at that conversation on the show page. In the weeks ahead, I'm going to continue tracking the progress of Armada 7806. I'm also going to explain other aspects of the MH370 mystery. So stay tuned. For now, this is Jeff Wise. See you next time.